Hey, this is the C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for Strikeforce Rousey versus Kaufman. Overall, this was a good card. Lots of finishes, divisional relevance within Strikeforce. You know, certain guys will probably get title shots. I thought that like Tate versus Ketsu was fun tonight. Rousey keeps building up her star, you know, pretty much. As far as picks go, I got 8 out of 9 correct. I missed the Anthony Smith versus Lumumba Sayers pick. Otherwise, I got the other ones correct. I'd probably actually like to start out with just talking about women's MMA in general. You know, I've been reading a lot of comments, and a lot of them say a lot of the same thing of like, Rousey, as great as she is, really shows how weak women's MMA is, and 135 is the strongest division. I can kind of agree with that in a sense. You know, it is a case of like where Rousey, her opponents know what she's gonna do, but they can't stop it. You know, I guess it's similar to like, I'm not comparing to fighters per se, but just the mentality of like Matt Hughes. You know, you knew his takedown was going to come, but they couldn't defend it. I'm not comparing to fighters. I'm comparing that like idea of like, you know, something's coming, but the opponent can't do anything about it. You know, I have mixed feelings about that opinion. I think for the most part it's true, but with some like caveats. You know, I think that women's mixed martial arts, the skill level is improving. I don't think, you know, and obviously it has a lot of momentum just in general. You know, you have people get excited after Invicta. After Rousey, you know, after Rousey beat Cyborg, you know, it's just like, wow, she's so awesome, blah, 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 blah. Or beat Kaufman, my gosh. You know, it's like, wow, she's so awesome, blah, 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 blah. You know, people want to see her fight. But yeah, as far as the talent level goes, there's good fighters. Alexis Davis is a good fighter. Sarah Kaufman's a good fighter. I think one thing that needs to be said too is, male or female, Ronda Rousey is just so high level at her judo. You know, male or female, it's like she transitions from one type of takedown and then like hits this really slick trip takedown. And her transition ability, I mean, she goes to dominant position so quickly right afterwards. It's, you know, male or female, I mean, it's just high. That's just really high level. You know, her striking still needs work. She still has that bull rush way of, I'll probably get into it as I talk about the fight though, but yeah, you know, the other issue is like, because women's mixed martial arts has a lot of momentum right now. It's kind of like women's mixed martial arts in the UFC. Do you want to see it or not? Even Dana White has mentioned maybe one-off fights here. I'd love to see Rousey versus Cyborg in the UFC. You know, I think it's too good to have it in Strikeforce. Maybe not as a main event, but like a co-main event. I think that'd be really cool. You know, it's mainly going to be Ronda Rousey fights that I would like to see in the UFC right now. In the future, who knows? Because I think the other thing with women's mixed martial arts is what they lack in skill level, they make up for in entertainment. Once again, Miesha Tate, Julie Kedzie, for example. I'm just like a lot of the Invicta fights. You know, it's like it's always just like, I always get this impression that female fighters always have this like chip on their shoulder, where it's like they really want to entertain, they want to finish their opponent, you know, and in a sense having that lower level of skill, you know, of fighting makes it so they're less conservative. I suppose I can't really explain it, but it's like you get to see more crazy scrambles, you know, that you get to see more like crazy striking exchanges, like Porto versus Delelio or something like that, or Davis versus Kaufman. You know, it's like you get to see more of that. and what they make up, what they lack in skill at times, they make up for just in entertainment. So it's kind of that weird balance where it's like, yeah, maybe the skill level in the, talking about women in the UFC, the skill level isn't there, but you gotta think that with the way the UFC is working these days, I mean, they pick up a lot of bad fighters anyways, too, Amir Sadal is not a great fighter. Matt Riddle's not a great fighter. A lot of guys from The Ultimate Fighter that they keep for a while, too, really aren't that good. Cody McKenzie's not a good fight. Not that good of a fighter, And it goes for, like, all divisions, I was like, I like Cyril Diabate, but he's not that great, But he manages to win in the UFC. And in that sense, it's like, well, you don't always have the very best fighters in the UFC anyways, and they're not always entertaining. So why not have female fights? Yeah, they're not the highest level, but they're entertaining. It's easy to get behind female fights. There's a novelty behind it. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of these females are able to distinguish themselves a lot better. So that's the thing. It's a weird. They're at a weird point right now. I just feel that women's MMA is kind of at an infant stage, but it's growing. It has so much like momentum right now, or it has a good amount of momentum right now that the questions are getting asked now. Hey, should they find the UFC? How high can it go? How big of a star can Ronda Rousey be? Can anyone challenge Ronda Rousey? Etc. There's a lot of questions with women's mixed martial arts coming about now because of the momentum that it's getting. Let's get on to the fights. Ronda Rousey beat Sarah Kaufman by armbar in the first round in 54 seconds. I picked Rousey to win. I thought the fight would last long. I thought it'd actually go to the second round. I think one of the biggest problems with a lot of her opponents is her opponents don't have the footwork to really thwart the judo game. It's a lot the same thing. Ronda Rousey pushes forward. She'll throw a couple punches, maybe eat one or two coming in, bully you against the cage, takedown, judo takedown, transition to mount, armbar. I would imagine that someone with good footwork and good lateral movement would just be able to stay off against the cage and not get bullied. I think Rousey comes forward so quickly right off the gate too. It's just sidestepping. I would think eventually someone's gonna not get bullied against the cage within the first minute. But Rousey's able to implement this same strategy, and a lot of people talk about, oh, she's so one-dimensional. It's like, no, she's like two-dimensional. That type of ability to take people down is really high level. Her transition ability is high level, and her scrambling ability is really high level. The fact that she can always get arm bars, she probably has the capability and the ability to do other submissions. It's just that's her submission of choice, and she finds it. I can kind of relate. It just people are just able to find certain. It's like even in stand-up, everyone's able. Certain guys are always able to find the money punch, the left hook, the right cross, whatever it is, Rousey's just able to find that arm bar when she's on the ground. It's just there. She sees where the arms are, and she knows she can get it. Like I said, the way she went for I forgot the names. She went for one type of takedown and transitioned to this really slick trip takedown, mounted immediately. I think she got her back and then went for the armbar right away. Interesting that she crosses her legs. I think she's kind of dispelling the myth that you don't cross your legs when you do an armbar. McMahon or Kaufman, she defended well. I mean, she kept rolling, and it was despite it being so short, it was a really cool high level sequence. I mean, everything was just it was short, but it was a high level sequence. The takedown, the transition, the armbar, the defense, and the eventual tap out. It was fun to watch, and it was a high level thing. I mean, it wasn't like it was a low level type of thing happening, for 54 seconds, it was high level. Eventually Kaufman tapped out. I think Kaufman, though, she's fought a good amount of opponents. Alexis Davis, Liz Carmouche, Misha Tate, Steph Schneider. She's fought a lot. I think if you're going to get Maris Kunin, if you're going to give her like fresh opponents, I'm thinking Sarah DeLolio would be a good opponent. She just came off a win over Porto and Invicta. Or Amanda Nunes, who came off a win over Mikel Paluli in Invicta as well. I think those are fresh matchups around her skill level. Rousey called out Cyborg. Called her out, even called her out to fight in the parking lot. So, that's another thing with Rousey. She knows how to promote herself really well. Some find her annoying and don't like her, but the fact of the matter is, women's MMA needs her. I mean, that's just the way it is. She's bringing new fans into the sport, into women's MMA, and people who didn't like women's MMA before will watch Ronda Rousey. It is what it is. Just the way it is. If not Cyborg, Maris Kunin would be good, or Sarah McMahon. Sarah McMahon, besides Cyborg, would be the most interesting challenge just because of the striking and her initial blitz. I think Rousey would be able to take her down though eventually. I think Sarah McMahon would be interesting just because I don't know how easily or not Rousey would be able to take down McMahon, because McMahon also thrives in the clinch. She's an Olympic silver medalist in wrestling, and a good amount of her takedowns do come from the clinch as well. She's no stranger to the clinch position. And I also feel that McMahon is a bit more comfortable on the feet than Rousey. You saw in the Baszler fight, a lot of it was contested in the stand-up. So I think as far as a stylistic matchup, Rousey versus McMahon would be very interesting, just because I don't know if Rousey would be able to get the fight to the floor that easily as she does with all her other opponents. So I think Rousey would eventually get it to ground. It's hard to say though. McMahon, she's good. She didn't look super great against Baszler, but just from a stylistic standpoint, I think considering what Rousey does and what McMahon does as far as grappling goes, it's very interesting to me. Cyborg versus Rousey, there's a big issue with the weight. Cyborg wants at 140. Rousey wants at 135. There's this big argument, and I want to just that I keep seeing that I think is just so irrelevant and grasping at straws. It's in the past, Rousey called her out at 145. Therefore, now, months later, I guess Rousey should stick with what she said. Let's not consider the fact that she is pretty much permanently a fixture at 135, and is the champion there, and that Cyborg has no leverage, especially after failing a drug test. Let's just ignore that and go back to this old point that, she said it back in the past, that she'd want to fight her at 140 when she was still at 145. Once again, people like to use this point against Rousey, that she said that, and it just seems so stupid to me, because it's because people don't consider that the situation has indeed changed. And it seems just like they're grasping at straws at this point, because a lot of people use that against her as some form of ducking Cyborg. You know, it's like, oh, she called her out 145. Why won't she go to 145 now? It's like, do you not know that she's the 135-pound champion? That most of the talent is at 135 with women's mixed martial arts. I mean, there's no one at 145. I get, you know, and once again, why should Rousey have to conform to Cyborg? You know, it really should go the other way around. You know, she's the champion. Cyborg has no leverage in the situation, and despite the fact that she says she can't cut to 135, I'm skeptical. You know, I'm skeptical. It just lose the muscle. You know, go with Dulce or whatever you need to do, but lose the muscle. You know, it's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. She's going to struggle. It's not going to be easy, but who's she going to fight at 145? What? Jermaine Durandamy, you know? Another fight with Yamanaka? Julia Budd? You know, I mean, Romy Rustin? I mean, there's like no one at 145 that's like a great challenge for Cyborg, you know? She should go down just to 135 just for her career in mixed martial arts. That's where the talent is. Miesha Tate's there, Sarah Kaufman's there, Alexis Davis, Sarah DeLelio, you know, Amanda Nunes, jeez, who else? Kunin can fight at 135, you know? Sarah McMahon, Shayna Baszler, I mean, they're all at 135, you know? That's why Cyborg should go down to 135. This reasoning that, like, oh, she called her out at 145, I just find to be utterly irrelevant at this point, because it doesn't consider what the situation is now, and it feels like people are grasping at straws with this point that Rousey called her out at 145 a while back. You know, I think it's ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. The next fight after that, Jacare Souza beat Derek Brunson by KO in the, it's KO in the first round, 41 seconds in the first round. I remember it was like Brent Brookhouse mentioned it in Bloody Elbow that Brunson does not have that great of stand-up. It shows here his chin's high, his arms low. I think he's still a prospect. He has less than 10 fights, but, you know, and he's still a great wrestler, but, you know, doesn't bode well when you're getting knocked out by a jiu-jitsu guy. However, Jacare has been steadily improving his stand-up. You know, I know he trains at X Gym with like Anderson. It's just getting more accurate, and you can see it too. It's his punches were really accurate like the whole time during the knockout sequence. I am supposing that Jacare. Another cool thing that I like to see from Jacare is that he's learning to speak English. I noticed this with a lot of Brazilian fighters. Here it is in the post-fight, interview with like Shogun. He's trying to speak more English. You saw a lot here to the point where it's like Jacare didn't even really need the translator. You know, it's really good to see that just a lot of Brazilian fighters really are learning to speak English. That's good to see. Jacare will probably fight Rockhold next. I was actually calling for Larkin to fight Rockhold. But a Jacare versus Rockhold rematch. It's a good rematch. Jacare's coming off a 2-fight win streak over Bristol Morune, and then he knocked out Brunson. This is a pretty emphatic knockout, and it'll be a good fight. I worry about Jacare's cardio, though. I think he'd be able to take the fight to the ground, but Rockhold showed such good ability to get back to his feet and a good overall takedown defense. And the Rockhold does have good striking, especially good kicks. He's really long as well. It'd still be a really good fight. I don't know who I'd favor. I'd kind of, if they do rematch, probably Jacare, but a lot of it's just bias because I'm such a fan of the guy too. With Brunson, 11-fight guy like Jardine or something. That's what I'm thinking. He's coming off a loss. It's a big name opponent, someone that Brunson can beat, and maybe work on his stand-up with. Could fight someone like Robbie Lawler, but that'd be pretty tough. Or maybe some of these lower tier guys. You know, I think he beat Sayers. I don't know if he fought Anthony Smith yet, or if he beat. I think he beat Keith Berry. I'm not too sure. I mean, Amagav's there as well, but yeah. Brunson still needs some work. Next one, I thought Tarek Saffiedine beat Roger Bowling by unanimous decision. I said it in the predictions, I said it here, and it showed here. Saffiedine was just a more technical fighter than Bowling. Bowling was always in the fight, and it was a good fight. You know, like I said, he's always in it. But Saffiedine was just way more technical on the feet. Showed good takedown defense. When he did get taken down one time, he got back to his feet. I think Bowling was actually talking about cutting to lightweight. If he does, I think he'd be good at that weight class. If not, I'm guessing you can find a guy like a Tyler Stinson, I guess. And there's guys like Jordan Meehan, Nate James, Jason High, I guess, Quinn Mulhern, Yuri Villafort, that he could fight at 170. But otherwise, I got to 155. With Saffiedine, it kind of sucked because the crowd didn't really get behind him when they mentioned getting a title shot. But I think he deserves it. After the Woodley loss, you know, he beat Stinson, he beat Bowling, you know, he beat Scott Smith. So I think he deserves it. I think it'd be an interesting stylistic matchup. Saffiedine's just a tough fight for a lot of guys. Like I said, he's really technical in the stand-up. He's good offensively and defensively. I think the only problem is he doesn't pull the trigger enough, and gets kind of content at a certain pace of the fight, which works because he wins. He has good takedown defense and a good, he has good grappling ability overall. I think Marquardt would win, but I think it'd be a good fight nonetheless. You know, I'm pretty high on Saffiedine as a prospect, to be honest. I've always been. So, I think it'd be a good fight for Marquardt. And next one, I thought Anthony Smith beat Lumumba Sayers by triangle choke in the first round. It's the only fight I missed, or prediction I missed. I thought Sayers would win with his superior boxing. And he has a good ground game himself. This was a weird fight because, like, it looks like Sayers got a takedown, but then Smith managed to get on top and then to mount. And then it looks like Smith was dropped, and then Sayers gets triangle choked. Smith is interesting. You know, he has good stand-up and good ground. He's actually pretty well-rounded. His record's not that great. I'm hoping he's just turning things around. You know, he looks like he has the physical tools. He's a tall, lanky guy. That triangle chokes just seem to come really natural to him. He has just almost as much like knockouts as he does have submissions. So, you know, he's a good fight. He's still kind of young, you know. I think that he might be a prospect to look out for, possibly, you know. Sayers, though, you know, he keeps win or lose. It's on the first round with him. You know, he's a fun fighter to watch, but I think the book's really closed with him, you know, as far as him being someone to really look out for, to be honest. I like the guy, but, you know, he has good stand-ups, good enough ground game, but, you know, I think this is pretty much a level I think he's kind of hit his ceiling, to be perfectly honest. I hate to be mean, you know, but, you know, this is analysis, you know, I have to be honest here. Next one, I thought OSP of St. Preux beat TJ Cook by knockout in the third round. That was a cool knockout, I have to say. One thing with St. Preux, though, he still has some cardio issues. He's good everywhere, but not great everywhere. But he makes up for that by being he's big for a weight class, but he's also just very athletic. He still has potential, you know. I think he was pushed to the Mousasi fight way too soon. That's the problem with Strikeforce. They don't have a middle ground. You got, like, prospects lower tier fighters, and then you have top fighters, and there's like no middle ground after that. You know, there's no Vladimir Matyushenko, Matt Hamill, you know, Stephen Bonner, Kyle Kingsbury. You know, there's no middle ground fighter. You know, it's just prospects and top fighters. But you know, with OSP, you know, he's a guy that's improving, but you know, it's always a worry for him because you know, I can't really, like the second round, for example. You know, it just I think it's he still has some cardio issues. You know, some defensive issues in the stand-up. He does get hit clean as well. But otherwise, he's a good fighter. I like watching him fight. There's not many guys he can fight in Strikeforce at 205. I think they should kill the division. So the only guys I can think of are like Faisal, Mike Kyle, that are kind of out there. Kyle versus St. Preux would be kind of cool. If not, I think John Vellante is probably his best bet. Otherwise, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. With Cook, I don't really know what else to say about the guy. You know, he looked alright. That's all. On to the prelims. Miesha Tate beat Julie Kedzie by armbar in the third round. This was fight of the night for me, man. Miesha Tate, Cupcake, got beat up by Kedzie in the stand-up. I thought Kedzie, it looked like Kedzie was about to win. She definitely won round 1, lost round 2. Kedzie has a problem with submission defense. You know, a lot of her losses are by submission. She definitely is a veteran in the sport. And she's a good fighter, you know, overall. She has solid stand-up. Dropped her with a head kick in the third round. That was really cool. She's tough as nails, man. What can you say? You know, she held on to that arm bar, really worked it, and eventually got it. I thought she was on her way to losing the fight too. You know, Tate's just got some toughness to her. And that's the thing. She couldn't get Kedzie to the ground though, which is unless Kedzie was like on top, or else like in the scramble she could, but otherwise she had a hard time really getting her offensive takedowns on Kedzie. I think Tate's mentioned that she can probably go down to 125, and if they had a division in Strikeforce, she probably should go down there. Otherwise, I mean, she's a good fighter at 135 nonetheless. I can see her fight like a Liz Carmouche, who was like pretty much she was tweeting the whole time, you know. Not Carmouche, you know. I said Delelio or Nunez. I think they're signed with Strikeforce still. I like to see Kunin come back. But she's already fought Tate, so one of those girls. With Kedzie though, you know, someone like a Baszler, I think she's still signed with Strikeforce. I'm gonna say a lot of the same talent, you know, like Delelio, Nunez. I know she's already fought Alexis Davis. Oh, Davis versus Tate would be cool as well. I think Alexis Davis probably should be, if not Cyborg, and if not Kunin because she's not signed, Alexis Davis would probably be a good next logical choice for Rousey. She's a good, well-rounded fighter. Next round after that, Adlan Amagov beat Keith Berry by TKO, 48 seconds in the first round. Herb Deed made a really bad stoppage here. It was just a really bizarre fight. Milicic kept questioning the kick to the knee that put Berry to the ground, whether that was legal or not. I was under the impression it was, just because I see guys like Anderson use it. Berry, because of this, might still have a job in Strikeforce. I don't think he's that great, though. Can't really say where he's going to go next. But with Amagov, maybe a fight with Larkin would be pretty cool. Could rematch Berry, but otherwise, or I think he already beat Anthony Smith. So, or maybe Amagov Brunson. He can do that. But I like Amagov. He's still a prospect. He has really wild striking, cool kicks. Yeah, and he has a Sambo background as well. He's a prospect I'm looking out for. He's a fun fighter to watch. Okay. Next fight after that, Jermaine. I always say Durandamy, but it's geez, I can't pronounce it right. So I guess I'll say Durandamy beat Hiroko Yamanaka by unanimous decision. With Jermaine, she's training at AKA. She didn't get taken down. Yamanaka didn't seem to have the best variety of takedowns. She, it looks like she tried this one particular trip takedown that was just like unsuccessful, and she got beat up on the feet. You notice this a lot with a lot of Japanese female fighters. They don't have great stand up, but they're tough as nails. They take a lot of hits. Durandamy, she'd hit her with like a lot of like overhand rights. She did get kind of wild in the stand up. I thought that she was she seems like the better, she has good technical stand up, but she gets sloppy at times. I'm surprised a lot of the hits didn't knock down Yamanaka. Jermaine should probably cut down to 135 because there's really no fights around 145. I think she said she's able to. Yamanaka, I mean, if she can get to 135, it'd be another cool addition to the weight class. But otherwise, she's just an alright fighter, to be honest. It wouldn't surprise me to see her get cut, Next round after that, Bobby Green beat Matt Ricehouse by unanimous decision. Not much to say, Ricehouse he couldn't really get off with his striking. He's still a prospect, but he still needs a lot of work as well. It's his first loss in his career. Bobby Green, solid fighter. He has good takedowns, solid striking. Just a guy coming up in the Strikeforce lightweight division. They need more lightweights. He's a good guy. Be a good first fight for a guy like Roger Bowling. If not, you can fight a guy like Carlos Fedor or Josh Thompson. Jeez, I don't know who else is in the division. He already beat James Terry. He can also fight someone like Justin Wilcox, maybe. I know Masvidal. Yeah, so those are good fights for Bobby Green. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for my post-fight analysis for Strikeforce, Rousey versus Kaufman. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.